Hello everyone. Today we will deal with bonding and coordination compounds. Bonding and coordination compounds can be explained by some of the theories. The first theory is Werner theory of coordination compound. Second theory is valence bond theory. Third theory is crystal field theory. And the fourth and the last theory is molecular orbital theory. Here we will deal with all these three theories, that is the Werner theory of coordination compounds, valence bond theory and crystal field theory. But the molecular orbital theory is above your +2 level, okay? So that you will do in the further classes. So the first theory is Werner theory of coordination compounds. Werner theory of coordination compound was given by Alfred Werner. He gave some of the postulates to explain his theory. The first point is that he said that metal shows two types of valencies, primary valency and secondary valency. Now what is mean by primary valency? Primary valency is the metal's valency which the metal shows in case of simple salts. That is, the metal shows in case of the simple salts. For example, if I take example as AgCl. Ag is a metal. What will be valency? Its valency will be +1. If I take example of cobalt chloride, cobalt is the metal. What will be its valency? Its valency is +3. So primary valency is the valency of the metal which the metal shows in case of the simple salts. Whereas secondary valency is the valency of the metal in case of coordination complexes. Okay. So in coordination complexes the metal will be surrounded by the ligands. So secondary valency refers to the number of ligands, or I can also say that the number of ligands means coordination number. So whatever be the number of ligands or the coordination number, that will give the secondary valency. Let's take an example here. This is an example of a cobalt complex. How many ligands are there? 6. So 6 will be the secondary valency. So this was the first point of the Werner theory, that the metal shows two types of valency, primary valency and secondary valency. So primary valency refers to the valencies of the metal in the simple salts, or another term can also be given to this primary valency, that is oxidation state, because here the primary valency is only the oxidation state of the metal atom, whereas the secondary valency refers to the number of ligand, or we can also say that the coordination number means the secondary valency. Now the second postulate of the Werner theory is metal satisfies both of its valencies, that is the primary valency as well as the secondary valency. Look here, second point is metal satisfies both of its valency, primary valency as well as is also satisfies its secondary valency. Now how the metal satisfies its primary valency? Primary valency means the oxidation state of the metal or the positive charge that is carried by the metal. So that will be satisfied by the presence of some of the anions. And secondary valency means the number of ligands. Okay, the secondary valency of the metal is satisfied by the ligands. Ligands may be the ions or they may be the neutral molecule that will going to satisfy the secondary valency of the metal. Now when the ligands surrounds the metal atom, the ligands are arranged in a particular manner in space, that is there is a particular spatial arrangement of the ligands around the metal atom, and this arrangement can be of various type. This arrangement may be octahedral, this arrangement may be square planar, this arrangement may also be tetrahedral. Okay, so there can be different type of arrangements of the ligand around the metal atom. So these were the three postulates which were given by the Werner in order to explain the bonding in the coordination compounds, but it was, though not successful, it has some of the limitations also. So the limitations of the Werner theory is that Werner theory doesn't explain that why all elements don't form coordination compounds. Why all elements can't form coordination compound is not explained by the Werner theory. Second limitation of the Werner theory is that Werner theory doesn't give us any idea about the magnetic property of the coordination compounds. Magnetic properties means you already have done the magnetic behavior in your 11th standard. It may be paramagnetic, diamagnetic. So all these properties of the coordination compounds is not explained by the Werner theory. Werner theory doesn't explain the color of the coordination compound, that whether the coordination compound will be colorful or not. If colorful, it will be of which color, and so on. It doesn't give any idea about the particular geometry of the coordination compounds. So all these were the limitations of the Werner theory. So Werner theory was not so successful. So another theory was given. The next theory is valence bond theory. Valence bond theory is also known as VBT. Valence bond theory was given by Pauling, and the important points of VBT are: first, valence bond theory says that the metal ligand bond is formed due to donation of electrons from the ligand to the metal atom. Okay. When the ligand donates the electron to the metal atom, the metal should have vacant orbitals in order to occupy the electrons. The second point says that the metal should have the vacant orbitals in order to occupy the electrons, and these vacant orbitals should be of equal energy. The vacant orbitals should be of equal energy. In case if these vacant orbitals are not available, then the orbitals will undergo hybridization procedure. You all are familiar with hybridization. Hybridization means mixing of orbitals. And when the orbitals of the metal undergo hybridization, they will going to form the hybrid orbitals of equal energy. And in these orbitals, the ligand will donate its electron. Okay. So the second postulate says that in order to occupy the electrons which are donated by the ligand, the metal should have the vacant orbitals of equal energy. In case if these orbitals are not there, then the metal orbitals will undergo hybridization. Now here we are dealing with the metal which are usually the transition metals. Transition metals means those metals which have d orbitals. Okay. And you know what is the configuration of them? The configuration is n-1d, 1 to 10, ns, 1 to 2. So sometimes what happens is these metal orbitals, the inner n-1d electrons will undergo pairing. So what will happen? There will be the pairing of inner n-1d electrons, and when these electrons undergo pairing, they will going to provide some of the vacant orbitals for the ligand to donate electrons to it. Okay. And these vacant orbitals will be equal to the number of ligands which are present. Okay. If the ligands are 4, there should be 4 vacant orbitals. If the ligands are 6, there should be 6 vacant orbitals. Okay. So somehow what will happen? The electrons will undergo pairing in order to provide the vacant orbitals, and these vacant orbitals should be equal to the number of the ligands which are present. So as a result, the electrons will be donated by the ligand and a metal ligand bond will be formed. This is the third point of the valence bond theory. Now when the ligands are donating the electrons to the metal orbitals and when the bond is being formed, so as a result of which there will be some octahedral, tetrahedral, square planar geometry will be arise for the various complexes due to hybridization like D2sp3, sp3d2 hybridization, due to presence of sp3 hybridization or D2sp hybridization. So as a result of this bonding, the complexes will have all these geometry with these respective hybridization. Now I am going to explain the VBT theory by taking 2-3 examples. The first example is of a cobalt complex. Okay, what is the configuration of cobalt? 3d7 4s2. Now when the cobalt is present in the free state, let's arrange the electrons. This is 3d7 4s2. Now here the oxidation state of the cobalt is 3 plus. So when it's present in the form of a ion, okay, when it's present in the form of the ion, the configuration will also change, and now the configuration will become 3d6 4s0. So let's arrange the electrons for it. Okay, now next is D2sp3 hybridization. When D2sp3 hybridization occur, then as a result of which, what you get? How the electrons will be arranged? Look here. Pairing will occur of these orbitals. This is D2sp3 hybridization when occur. Now last will be the formation of the complex. Formation of the complex. This complex when formed, so these ligands, 6 ligands are there. They will going to donate the electrons in these orbitals. Okay, I am donating the ligands with the help of a cross sign. So what we get is they have already paired. Here we have the ligands D2sp3. Okay, so this is D2sp3. Now when this complex is formed, if you look at this complex, the metal is having all the electrons are paired. So from if all the electrons are paired, then what type of magnetic behavior it will show? It will show a diamagnetic behavior. Now here the orbitals which are involved in hybridization are inner orbital, that is the inner d orbital. Therefore it will be inner orbital complex, or we can say that it will be inner orbital octahedral complex. Why octahedral complex? Because 6 ligands are attached to the metal atom, and during the formation of this complex the inner orbitals are being used. Therefore it will be inner orbital octahedral complex. So I have taken an example of a compound or a complex which is an octahedral complex, and I have shown you how there will be the formation of this complex will take place. Okay, next I will take the formation of another complex. Another example is, it's also a cobalt complex. Again the hybridization, the cobalt is 3d7 4s2. We will arrange the electrons as we did in the earlier example, the configuration on the basis of its configuration. D7 okay 4s2. So the configuration is 3d7 4s2. Now what is the oxidation state here? You know how to calculate the oxidation state. I hope everybody knows. The oxidation state is again 3 plus. So cobalt in the form of the ion. Arrange the electrons for the cobalt ion now. Cobalt ion will have the configuration of now 3d6 4s0. This is the configuration. Now the hybridization we will get here is sp3 D2 hybridization in cobalt. Okay. Now for sp3d2 hybridization, there will be no pairing of these electrons. Why? Because the ligand here is a weak filled ligand. So weak filled ligand is there, therefore it will not support the pairing, and as a result of which we get hybridization as sp3d2 hybridization. sp3d2. Okay. Now next will be the formation of the complex. How the complex will be formed? When there will be donation of the electrons from the 6 fluoride ligands to these orbitals. Again I am going to donate the ligands by the help of a cross sign. Okay, so here there will be 6 fluoride ions that will be donated. Now here if you look, there are some of the free electrons are there, unpaired, which are, so therefore the complex will show paramagnetic behavior, and here the outer d orbitals are involved in hybridization, therefore this will be called as outer orbital complex, or we can also say it as outer orbital octahedral complex, because the hybridization is sp3d2 and 6 ligands are there which are donating their electrons to the metal atom. So here I have discussed the example for the octahedral complexes on the basis of the valence bond theory, and I have taken both the type of octahedral complexes, inner orbital octahedral complexes as well as outer orbital octahedral complexes. The inner orbital octahedral complexes were having hybridization as D2 sp3, and outer orbital complexes were having hybridization sp3 d2. Now next I take example of a nickel complex. Now nickel, the molecular configuration is 3d 8 4s 2. Let's arrange the electrons for it. Okay, now 3d 8 one more they will be there 4s2. Now what's the oxidation state here? The oxidation state comes out to be x minus 4 equals to minus 2, so x will comes out to be plus 2. So nickel will be present in the form of which ion? Ni 2 plus ion. So the configuration will become 3d 8 4s 0. They will be empty. Now the hybridization will be sp3 hybridization will occur, and sp3 hybrid orbitals will be formed. So they are available now to accept the electrons from the ligand. So at last there will be the formation of the complex. So the ligands will give their electrons to these orbitals. Okay, and I am again denoting the electrons by the help of a cross sign. So the ligands of the chloride. Now here again if you look, unpaired electrons are there, it will be paramagnetic, hybridization is sp3 and geometry will be tetrahedral. So this is a tetrahedral complex. So this is how the valence bond theory works. So valence bond theory works on the presence of the vacant orbitals, and in case if vacant orbitals are not there, then the vacant orbitals may be formed by hybridization of the orbitals of the metal, when the metal orbitals undergo hybridization, and when they undergo hybridization they will going to create the hybrid orbitals. Now some limitations are also there for valence bond theory. The first limitation is that it doesn't give any idea about the color of the complexes. In second example we said that the fluoride is a weak field ligand, but no explanation is being given in VBT about the field of the ligand, that is how the ligand is strong field or how the ligand is weak field. That is not explained anywhere in the valence bond theory. Okay, although it is explaining the magnetic properties, it is explaining the geometry, but it is not giving any example. Third, if the coordination number is 4, the complex will have square planar or the complex will have tetrahedral geometry, is not explained by this theory. So if the coordination number is 4, that is 4 ligands are there, then the geometry will be square planar or tetrahedral, is not explained by this theory. So here we complete the Werner theory and the valence bond theory. Next is the CFT. So crystal field theory we will do in the next video. Okay, thank you so much.